Yeah,
Okay,
you'll be
cool.
tagged. What is up, everybody? This is Nick from P2W Fantasy here on Tuesday, the Tuesday before the big draft. And prepping for the draft, prepping for a big week ahead. I have three great guests with me today that I'm excited about here. So I do want to introduce these guys, obviously one by one individually. But before we get into anything related to the show, I do want to mention, usually the logo is in the corner somewhere, but we do have four people on today, so our templates are a little off here. But the podcast is sponsored by and partnered by the Fantasy Points Media Group, which is part of the Fantasy Points. FantasyPoints.com. I cannot stress enough how it is my one-stop shop for everything, for podcasts, preparation, for article writing, just looking up something to debate somebody on. Whatever the case is, I don't have to jump around websites anymore. Everything is found through the FantasyPoints.com. They have an awesome rookie guide. I know the draft's coming up, but you can still use that rookie guide prepping for your rookie drafts, available through an app. So check that all out. FantasyPoints.com/subscribe. My promo code to get an extra percentage off there is 21win10. So again, Fantasy Points. All right, so we got a good show ahead of everybody today. Talking two topics: dynasty advice and the NFL draft. So I wanted a little bit of a mixture here, especially with three guys. But let me introduce these guys one by one and let them plug themselves, because all three of these guys are guys I respect. So I wanted them all on the show here. To start things off, I got Amar, writes for RotoViz. I actually caught Amar on Happy Hour this past Friday with some people, so that was cool to catch you on there. Also just saw you on my guy Kevin Coleman's show. Kevin is one of my best friends through the Twitter space here, so it was nice to see you get on his show as your first podcast, and then you jump over to mine for your second podcast. So that is awesome in itself. So Amar, can you tell everybody, because it'll be on iTunes and things like that, where can we find you on social media, and then what you got going on, man?
So my Twitter name is Amar Gaber. My first and last name, AMRGAABR. You can find me on Twitter. I do, as Nick said, write for rotoviz.com or rotoviz.com. You can find me on there. I just wrote a Jonathan Taylor article, actually. I'm writing a piece about CeeDee Lamb upcoming. I'm talking about how I think I'm going to be hyperbolic, but I think he's going to be my dynasty wide receiver 2 overall. And I'm also writing a wide receiver research piece talking about when wide receivers break out, when they kind of fail, when to kind of sell them, when to kind of buy them again. So those are some things you can be on the lookout for at RotoViz.
Awesome. And that first wide receiver topic is going to be interesting, because that's usually very debatable between everybody.
Yeah,
but I can see the case without reading it. I can see the case being made for that. Also with me, Jeremy. It's not his first time or his second time on the podcast. This guy's just so good. I just have to keep knocking on his door as much as possible. But again, Jeremy, yards per fantasy, SPGN. Fantasy Scouts, Dynasty Mafia. You host the Fantasy Playmakers. That's primarily your show with another guest. Smash Accept podcast involved with as well. Jeremy, tell everybody where we can find you. And if you want to just touch base on all the things you got going on, that'd be appreciated.
Yeah, for sure. You guys can find me on Twitter at PopesFFH. DMs are always open, especially around draft time here. If you have any questions in the rookie drafts, feel free to shoot them over. I try to get back to you in a reasonable amount of time. But yeah, I'm just kind of writing articles over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network and Yards Per. Not too much. I really kind of took a couple days off here after doing all the rookie threads and everything. Kind of just came to a culmination here, and I'm just waiting for the draft on Thursday. So not too much in the works yet, but after the draft, I'm sure I'll have some landing spot pieces and stuff like that coming out. So.
Awesome. And I will say, and I've said it before, those rookie threads have been some of my favorite pieces of incoming rookie content, because reading articles and stuff like that is always great. But I think just getting to the point and looking at some clips and some of your input on that has always been really good to look at.
Appreciate
last guest here with us today is John. John, for the love of Sunday, you got that going on. You were making a drink before the show. I know you're a bartender and always stirring some stuff up. Me and you actually ran into each other on one of the Rum Boys After Dark. I think you're a more frequent guest than I am. I also had some nice conversations with you in the past on Clubhouse as well. So it's nice to get on the mic here face to face again and talk some football. So John, where can we find you, and what's up, man?
No, nothing much. Like you said, I was mixing up drinks. I had a drink. In honor of your big Steffi Smalls news, I made a drink specifically for her. I'm calling it a Smalls Spritz. So
Smalls Spritz.
A Smalls Spritz. It's a little bit of peach vodka, a little bit of Campari, a little elderflower liqueur, and then obviously I had to top it with White Claw. So
Hey.
I got a heavy drink going right now. I got a real heavy drink. So that's for her. That's for you. Congratulations on that. That's going to be a great show. I can't wait to tune in. And people can find me basically the podcast For the Love of Sundays, FTLS. You can look it up anywhere. My grandfather can find it. You can find it. Just Google search FTLS or Google search For the Love of Sundays. Apple, iTunes, everywhere. Me and my best friend Brian, we've grown up together. We've known each other since we were infants. We've been competitive ever since we were infants. We hate each other. We love each other. So this podcast is just basically our trials and tribulations going through fantasy and going through the game because that's what it is. We tend to forget that. And we tend to kind of throw that by the wayside, is that this is a game that we're just having fun with. And so it's a bunch of meta analysis of weird data points. So we should have fun with it. And that's what this show is all about. It's kind of silly. We talk about what we love to do on Sundays, talk about what we're drinking, talk about some bad beats. We'll get into big thing that we're doing right now is our rankings for fantasy pros. Brian is, top 5. He was top 10 accuracy and then top 5 last year. So it's pretty good. We're getting we're getting pretty good. We're getting pretty good at it. We're starting to understand sort of projections and models and things like that. And so that really takes up a lot of our off season. We just have this huge spreadsheet of every roster, break them down, grade them, give them sort of rankings and ratings on that and that standpoint, and then submit it to Fantasy Pros. So that's really where you can find us. I don't write much. I used to write all the time. I don't have the time to do it as much as anymore, which is sad. But if I do, it's usually on goingfor2.com or with the Rum Boys. So if you see one of my articles, know that I put a lot of effort into it. I don't write often. So please read it. And that's pretty much it. And I've been bouncing around. I'd love to do shows like this. And like I said, I appreciate you and appreciate everything you've been doing. So it's fun that I get to come on and talk football.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And awesome stuff you got going on. Appreciate the shout out. Do have the new show coming up every Thursday starting in May with Steffi Small. So I am very excited about that. Should be a good team up right there. So we got that going on. So today on the podcast, Dynasty advice, NFL draft. We got both of those topics coming up here in just a second.
Play to win, no fear to give. I feel, but I can't forgive. I go all in this time, I won't regret. I'll pick the best on trip, they don't understand. I play to win, I play to win. I play to win, I play to win. I play to win, play to win. I play to win, play to win. I play to win.
All right, so first topic we got going on today is some Dynasty advice. I think for those that play Dynasty or might be new to it, it's nice to hit on this topic because, as content producers, we can't just all assume that everybody's a fantasy analyst all the time. I'd say probably a good chunk of my personal content consumers are not all analysts. I have people back home, other casual fantasy players. So for those playing Dynasty, I think this time of the year is sometimes confusing on what we should do and things like that. So I did want to touch on a few topics here, and we'll just go as a little roundtable here with some of my questions here. But the first question, just going to make it super general. For those that do not play Dynasty leagues, so they just play in their home leagues or just redraft leagues every single year, why should people play in Dynasty leagues? That's my first question. We can start with Amar. We'll shoot down to Jeremy and finish with John here. So Amar, why should people play Dynasty?
Well, the reason why I love playing Dynasty is because growing up we all play Madden, right? And we all play franchise mode. We all like own these. We're not own these players, but like we all like targeted players we wanted. We made trades. We did everything that we wanted to do. That's funny.
First point, Madden franchise mode. You're on the same wave.
But like, yeah, it's fun to like be like, yo, I found this player before anyone else did. Yo, I was able to like get this player. Like it's fun going to your friends and being like, yo, this, like, you should keep an eye on this player. And then he hits, and when it comes back to you, and it's like, yo, thank you for the advice. Thank you for looking out for me. So like the reason why I love playing Dynasty so much is like being able to, like, it's a year over year kind of league. It doesn't finish once the NFL season's over. You keep playing year round. I think I just love it because, like, you get to keep tracks on all these players that you love. As you can see, Nick has all those jerseys in the background of like all of his favorite players, which, I mean, that's what we all do. We want to cheer for our favorite players. We want to make sure that everyone like succeeds as much as we want to. So that's one of the reasons why I love playing Dynasty so much.
All right, Jeremy, why Dynasty when it comes to fantasy football?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to just kind of build off of Amar's there. I personally like the same thing, you know, finding that guy, that diamond in the rough. Like, quick story, I found Kenny Galladay, like, not necessarily found him, but like I drafted him. I drafted him in like a.
What do we got here?
In a league that, yeah, you just walk by. No, but yeah, I drafted him in a league before like anybody knew, like that first year, and then he broke out, and I was super excited. And then the next year, someone dropped out. We had to redraft, and then he lost him. And it's like that guy that nobody was like hyping up. You get to pick him, and you find him, and then you keep him. You know what I mean? Or you can trade him away, whichever. But like, it's just finding that diamond in the rough and kind of building basically a dynasty. You know what I mean? And you get to keep these guys if you have a good team versus redraft, where with redraft you got to be a very good drafter. Like, if you're not a good drafter, dynasty kind of is probably your way. You only got to draft once, and then you got little rookie drafts where you can build teams through trades. So I don't know. I just like the accomplishment of just rebuilding teams. I think that's always fun. There's just a lot of different aspects to it where it's just like Amar said too, all year round. It's something that, I don't know, I just enjoy it a lot. And I think that the platform just builds to, like you guys said, Madden franchise mode. It's everything you grew up on. So
John, what's your take here? Why Dynasty? If people are maybe considering it or never played before.
If you are considering it, I'll tell you this. If you're listening to this podcast and you're listening to this show right now, you should be playing in Dynasty because you're committed. There is no off season for you. You're here to play to win. So I think that you should 100% get into it because there is no off season. Like these guys said, you know, you're constantly moving, you're constantly tinkering and retooling, and there is no off season. There is no itch to like, I want to play. You're like, nah, I always got something going on. If I got the itch, I go into my couple of my dynasty leagues and I start looking at trades that I might want to make, or I start doing this and start, you know, looking at waiver wire stuff. And there's always something to do in dynasty. And I think that's what I like about it the most is I can always keep my fantasy brain clicking. Whereas redraft, when I first started in fantasy football and it was just redraft and it was like, okay, season's over, wash my hands, and then I'll call me again in 6 months, 7 months. And so this is much more fun. And it's much more committed. And you tend to build these sort of like rivalries, which is great. It's just a much more competitive, fun format. Redraft is great. Don't get me wrong. I still do a couple redraft leagues with home friends and I love them, but there's just something different about dynasty and like winning a dynasty title where you're like, man, this feels good. This feels really good.
Yeah, I personally think it's harder even just to build off of that. You know, like that dynasty, it's just kind of like you said, that rivalry too. That's always fun, especially I got a couple hometown leagues, you know, with guys that I grew up with. And it's always just like, oh, I'm playing you this week. And it's just like, you're just kind of trash talking like in your private messages and stuff. It's always fun, I think.
100%. Yeah. And anytime we were talking off air, there's little bits of news, right? So all these little bits of news that come out, if you're in a dynasty league, you can either A, take advantage of the hype or the lack of hype, or B, you can just talk trash to the rest of your league and say, hey, look, my guy's getting all this praise from Adam Schefter, or, you know, yada, 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 whatever. And it's just a way to keep things going year round. So yeah, I'm a big,
dude, I have a great, no, keep going. I have a great Kenny Galladay story. In one of my home leagues, my friend who went to NIU, because Kenny Galladay went to NIU, he drafted him after Christian McCaffrey and Leonard Fournette. Like, he drafted him at 103, and everyone was like, "What are you doing? Like, why are you drafting Kenny Galladay? Like, you could have got him in the third, fourth round." But he ended up blowing the next year, and everyone was like, "Yo, give me Kenny Galladay."
Yeah, I think
so, like,
I
he
think,
was able to. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think all good points all together there. I feel like at some point all of us probably started with redraft and we love playing fantasy football, and I think it just kind of clicks for you like, hey, there's this extra layer of more of a commitment, more of taking it a little bit more serious, and thinking not just in the now, but in the short term and in the long term of things. I mean, if you played Dynasty for a while, I think nothing's better than seeing a guy you've hung on to break out, year 2, year 3, and really pan out for you, or snatching that guy in the waivers that never should have been there, and now he's a great asset. So I think it's very challenging. You guys kind of alluded to that as well. It is very, very different. There's so much strategy that goes into it, and the strategy is different than redraft. And we'll get into a little piece of that strategy in a second here. But yeah, I do encourage everybody. Hey, if you're a fantasy football geek like the 3 of us, the 4 of us here, give it a shot. Give it a shot. Kevin chimed in and said something about Devy leagues. Not something I've done before, but testing new things is always fun. I tried fantasy hockey this year. I mean, not a little off topic, but I mean, it's fun. And I'm in the championship. I'm in the championship. Yeah. Nice. But I got Ovechkin. Ovechkin's out like for, I don't know, a couple days or some shit like that. So we'll see.
Dude,
we'll see how it goes.
What I found funny, to build off your point, Nick, about playing like for the first time ever, like a different sport. I played fantasy baseball for the first time ever this year, like for the first time ever, and I'm in the championship. I have no idea how that works. Like, how is it the first time we're like in the championships on the first year? Like all these players, like they do in and outs, like they keep log sheets, all this stuff, and they come in first year. I just don't understand it. That literally drives me crazy. Like when someone comes in, I've been doing all this research, and they're in the championship the first year. It's like, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong?
All right. So when it comes to let's build further on the dynasty. I got 2 more topics here, and then we'll get into the draft. But so we're talking about encouraging people. What's up, Trav? We're talking about encouraging some people to actually play dynasty, right? Now, like flip the switch a little bit. What actually makes what's the Spark No version maybe of what makes a good dynasty manager? Because I'm sure we've all been in leagues where we have those guys that are extremely, extremely active and really get after it and do tons of research and have spreadsheets and, are sending trades every day. And then we've had the opposite where people are in dynasty and they don't really pay too much attention. They don't want to, trade. They don't want to pay attention to the waivers, things like that. I mean, you have this big range of dynasty players. So what to you makes a good dynasty manager? And we'll just keep doing like a snake here. We'll go Jeremy to John to Amara here. So Jeremy, what stands out to you making a good dynasty manager?
I think I always, if anybody's even just starting or whatever, I preach just like fluidity. You know what I mean? Like be able to move with the market, and like it's really a stock market. It honestly is. There's player values change week in and week out. I mean, I remember last year I loved Joshua Kelly, drafted him. He broke out week 1. Someone offered me a second, and I was like, nah. And now he's probably going to get cut. So, you know what I mean? You got to just like, you just got to stay fluid with it almost. And like, sometimes if you can, it's hard. I do it, but like take like the emotion out of it. Sometimes it gets a little, you get tied to some guys and it's like, for example, that, you know what I mean? And it's like, I could have a 2nd round pick for a guy drafted in like the 4th. And, but yeah, I think just stay fluid and open and just stay active. That's the key for me. Just always be open, listen to offers, try and make some trades. Just that's pretty much it.
The side comment about, being emotionally involved, like emotions being played into it. My worst thing when it comes to dynasty is behind you right here, because I feel like that's like my lock. That's my commitment to a guy. Like if this guy's on my roster, I get the jersey, somebody's sending me an offer. I'm like, fuck, I don't know. I don't know if I can do it. No, but
I just got this jersey. What do you want from me?
Also add in there, change up your roster, because I looked at all my rosters this offseason and realized every single team has Calvin Ridley and Tyler Boyd. And if one of them gets hurt, I am toast. So change it up so that at least you have, like, if someone gets hurt, you have rosters that are still competitive versus where I'm going to have nothing and just donated money.
To stick with your stock portfolio, it's to diversify your portfolio. To stick with
I do not do that.
You got to diversify.
I don't either. All my stuff looks the same. Like It's a spider. It's like that Spider-Man GIF. It's like, or GIF, whatever the hell it's called. It's
each of
just
my
all
rosters looking at
dynasty
each
leagues.
other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they all look the same. They all look the same. I'm not changing any player. If I'm all in, I want to see them all in.
That's awesome.
John.
I think that's probably my advice to be active. Always try and stay active in the league. And because Dynasty, especially for new Dynasty players, is there is no off season. So if you got to stay active, you got to stay on top of things. Always, check the waiver wire, check who got dropped, all this stuff. It's just a grind. It's a year-round grind. So my advice is stay active and think about a 2 to 3 year window. That think in Dynasty terms. Don't think this. A lot of people will think this year, which is a redraft mentality. And sometimes you meet Dynasty players that will think too far in the future. And you're like, no, you still got to kind of win, like don't trade away everyone just for picks and keep pushing picks down the line. It's like, so I like to have this 2 to 3 year window of sort of, that's kind of my end all be all for player production and sort of where I think they're going to score and all this different stuff. And so that's my 2 bits of advice. Stay active and think in a 2 to 3 year window.
I like it. Amar, what comes to mind for being a successful Dynasty manager?
So basically, you guys are like all hit the points already. So all I'm going to do is reiterate it. But basically, building off of John's point, like the 2 to 3 year window, I do agree with that. Also, I have a mentality of like, because people are always like all about like trying to win trades or trying to get value, and I have the mindset like you're trying to win championships. Like you want to win. Like that's what you want to do is you want to win. Like I don't care about a 21-year-old who's going to hit for me 5 years down the line. Like I do. Like I'm the biggest like wide receiver ages, but I'm also not going to like trade. I'm not going to trade away like Julio Jones for McCole Hardman and be like, oh, I want to trade because McCole Hardman is 22 years old while Julio's like 31 years old. Julio's still going to give you like a top 10 season. Are you ever going to get a top 10 season from McCole? I'm not sure. So like my 2 biggest bits of advice is be adaptable. Like always just like scour the waiver wires, as Jeremy said. Make sure you're on top of things. Just make sure like you're active. Because like the biggest thing with Dynasty leagues is when players aren't active, it's not as fun. Like when you can't talk shit, when you can't, like you want it to be fun. And at the end of the day, you want to win. And as John said, you want to play in a window. Like you want to like look, if you can win this year, try to put all your chips to win this year. If you're looking at a rebuild, try to go for rebuild, but don't try to rebuild 5 to 7 years out. Try to build like 1 to 2 years out so you're still strong. So you still go back to a man franchise mode where you're looking to essentially compete and dominate your league.
Yeah, I think the common thing said between everybody is being active, right? I think in a redraft league, you can be active, you can trade, you can play the waivers, but it's very, very much more laid back and put the players out on Sunday or Thursday, whatever the day is, and let it roll. With Dynasty, though, I mean, you're talking about committing to a team for a decade, right? So, I mean, being super active this past season with the waiver wire, depending on the depth of your league. Some leagues and dynasties are extremely deep. Some are not as deep. I'm in both sort of dynasty leagues, but this past season, James Robinson, right? If you paid attention to things, you played the waivers, could be a good asset. Myles Gaskin this past season, I don't know what his future holds, but he was very good for this past season for when he was healthy. Logan Thomas, Robert Tonyan, Mike Davis might have been sitting on waivers and was awesome this season. So, paying attention to things, playing your waivers, not being super satisfied either with your team, I think is big. My brother, I'm not, he does some P2W stuff every now and then. I'm not a big fan of his, to be honest. Don't really like the guy, but he did say something good about, a good team in a dynasty does not. Yeah, we give each other some shit all the time. It's all good. But he did say that good dynasty teams, even if they are in first place, shouldn't always be settled with their roster. Should always be thinking ahead on, hey, how can I make this roster better for next year, this year, and so on. So I think just always wanting to boost that roster, always wanting to be active, things like that is really important for dynasties. You mentioned briefly, Amar, trading. We'll get into that right now. I think it's very tough. I think it's very tough in dynasty leagues to trade because, like we said before, I think Jeremy, touched on it. There's some, emotional attachments. Some teams like to have all the same guys, so it's hard to like pry away that, wide receiver, that Ridley, or, if someone is hanging on, I'm a big Eckler guy, hanging on Eckler, things like that. So I think trading in Dynasty is tough because, in redraft, it's like, it is what it is. You make a mistake, it is what it is. You make a good trade, it is what it is. In Dynasty, though, that trade can have an effect for multiple years. So when it comes to trading in Dynasty leagues, can you give guys that are starting off, maybe they just did a startup, maybe they are brand new, can you give the audience here a piece of advice for Dynasty trading? And we'll start with John on this one.
The biggest one, and this is, I say it in redraft too, don't be afraid to lose a trade. Like, it's gonna happen, and especially in Dynasty. Like, if you think that this trade is going to help your team right now, make it and live with the consequences and work with it and adapt, and don't think that this is an end all be all. I traded away a rookie Alvin Kamara. So, I mean, look, it can happen. And again, now here I am, hindsight 2020, like, that was stupid. I gave up what was a superstar for Melvin Gordon, which Melvin Gordon was fine. Melvin Gordon's a good player, but I could have had Alvin Kamara forever. And so, I think that's one thing, and especially with Dynasty, because it is this sort of forever mentality. You don't get to draft again at the end of the year or next year. People get scared because they're like, I don't want to lose this trade because then I'm going to look like an idiot. And it's like, no, that's not, don't worry about it. Like, don't worry about it. So that's the one thing I'll say. And once you start making trades, even if you're not afraid to lose, people in the league will start to realize, oh, I can go to this player with trades. They are an active player. If you never trade because you're always afraid to lose a trade, so you never do it unless you're going to absolutely win the trade, then people won't come to you with more trades. And so then you become a tough trade partner. And you don't want to be that. You don't want to be the person that everyone in the league goes, I don't want to trade with that guy because he has to win the trade, or else he's not going to do it. And so that's kind of my point. I think don't be afraid. Make trades if you think it's good at the time, and if it helps your team at the time, so be it. That's kind of my advice with Dynasty. It's scary, but you got to do it.
I do like that a lot because I feel like even on fantasy Twitter we see nonstop who won this trade, without context too, because sometimes league mates might focus on that. Hey, on paper I won this trade, this is good. But in reality, I mean, you can lose a trade, but make your team better in Dynasty. I mean, it's a fact for guys that actually play. So I think I like that about, not worrying about the winning and the losing, because then it makes people hold back. I had a guy who was in, and he told me this, he was in a home league, Dynasty league. And he actually told me that he hesitated trading for a long time because a lot of people gave him shit about a trade that he made that ended up being a bad trade, and he hesitated trading, and that affects the whole league. So I like that point a lot. Amar, Dynasty trading, do you have any piece of advice that comes to mind first when it comes to that topic?
Well, I am the opposite of John. I like pain, so I will lose trades on purpose so I can keep trading later on. Because as you say, you want, like, everyone wants to win a trade. I have no idea why. I have no idea like how we got this mentality. But like, you have to win if you do make a trade. Like, there's no like when someone makes a trade, it's like, did I win or did I lose? It's like that doesn't matter at all. Like, that should not be like first question. Like, did I win? Did I lose? It's like, did it help to make it with your team? Like, and another thing is, you should never trade position for position. Like, never trade a running back for a running back. Like, that doesn't help your team. Doesn't make you better. Doesn't do anything. And in the long run, you're most likely gonna look like an ass because you most likely either fleece the guy or you're either gonna hurt your relationship partners with that person. So what my mentality is, like, try to find value first of all in your trades when you make your trades. Like, try to find value. Try to find players that can help your team. Like, if you don't have a good tight end, try to find a way to make your overall starting lineup roster better. And don't be afraid to lose a trade. If you lose a trade, so be it. But like, don't give people like shit. Like, if you can handle like shit talking like that, that's cool. But like, don't barge a person just because he lost a trade, because that's no fun.
And both of you guys mentioned relationships after trading, and wanting to keep some decent ones. I think that's important too, because if you end up being the guy that's always, like you mentioned, looking to fleece somebody, people are going to avoid your trades all the time. Or when you say, hey, blah, blah, blahs on the block, and then you're that guy that's fleecing all the time, and you're the first one knocking on the door, that manager is going to probably wait to hear from other people first. I think your dynasty leagues, you don't have to be super nice and hold each other's hands all the time, but at the same time, people remember, who their trade partners were and how trades went, especially if you're in those long time leagues. So good points there. Down to Jeremy, dynasty trading, any advice that stands out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just will build off of what they said. They kind of just nailed it all there. But I agree with Amar definitely too, where it's do what's best for your team. You know what I mean? Like, just because the trade doesn't seem great doesn't mean it's not great for you. Like, if you have to give up 2 firsts to get T. Higgins because you need a 3rd wide receiver or 2nd wide receiver, I mean, it's probably worth it. I mean, we don't know what these rookies are going to be. So don't always go in thinking, oh, I'm giving up 2 first-round picks that are going to be total, like, they're going to hit and it's going to be great. Like, you don't know. You could be giving up 2 guys that never play for anybody. You know what I mean? It's just it's just a big gamble, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. I mean, it's going to happen. I mean, there's times that I make trades and I look back and I go, oof, that was rough. You know what I mean? And I sit here and I look at these guys and I start watching them in like college, and then like I get to the NFL and it's like I sit there and think like, oh, I should have a 100% hit rate. Meanwhile, it's like 25. So like nobody ever knows. Like, just be willing to make trades. I mean, it makes it fun. You know what I mean? Move your rosters around. Like, if you have the same roster, like we were discussing there, where I'm going to be totally screwed if Calvin Ridley goes down, but like it's more fun to just like, you know what I mean? Everybody's like, there's guys that are fantasy viable. So like, why not change up your roster so that you can, I think it's more fun when like you can root for more people and just, I don't know, just kind of be like a respectful trade partner, get back to guys in time. Don't leave stuff open. Sometimes I'm guilty of that. And I always get crap in my home league because they're like, sent you a trade like 7 days ago. And I'm like, sorry, my notifications aren't on. You know what I mean? And then I look like, and I feel bad. You know what I mean? It's like, oh crap, like, sorry, and then then I'm the reverse, like when I send one and I'm like, why is this guy not answering me? You know what I mean? So like,
it's been 10 minutes. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Like what's going on here? But yeah, so like, just kind of just be nice. So I guess really just like, you can talk normal crap if it's like your friends, but if you're in leagues like with guys on Twitter, don't like, not everybody knows everything. So just because the trade on surface looks like it's really bad, in 1 year from now, you could be laughing because the guy made the right choice. So
yep, could be way
I also
different.
want to say one more thing.
Go ahead.
But read the room. Like, always read the room. Like, don't talk shit to someone that you don't know. Don't come in and be like, oh, I won that trade, man. Like, you're never gonna don't do that, because like then they're not gonna come back. They're not gonna want to trade you, and then you're not gonna end up being in the league. Just always read the room. Like, make sure you have built relationships before you do anything that's not smart.
Yeah, not only that too, actually, to build. Sorry, Nick, to keep going here, but
you're good.
I actually have. There's a couple guys who reach out to me on Twitter regularly, and like, know your league though, because not every league trades the same. So, for example, like I'm sitting here telling them you should be able to get a 1st-round pick for Hollywood Brown, and he's like, not in this league. Like I can barely get a 2nd for him. You know what I mean? Like, some leagues, you can't just reach out because people are different. You know what I mean? Like, even in my home league, my friends always feel like, because they don't pay much attention, so they're like, well, why do you want this guy? So like, know your league. Like, so sometimes like you might have to give up more than what somebody on Twitter might tell you, because it's just the way that they are. You know what I mean? Your league might just be different, and it's completely possible. So just know that too,
Values are very different too, just building off of that, league to league. So good points all around. 2 things that stand out. If you're listening to this podcast and you run a league, you're the commissioner, encourage trades. I run a league that I started this past season. It's an IDP league, full IDP dynasty. But there was a slow time, and then out of nowhere, some guys started making some trades, and I'm in the group chat, and I'm just like, damn, this league's popping off today. I'm encouraging it, because when it's encouraged, then people are like, oh, this makes sense. This is part of dynasty, and it encourages guys to make those moves. The other thing that I've kind of switched my mentality on to when it comes to trades, start looking more so. I mean, you obviously know the guys you want to go after, and you know the team needs that you have, but you really need to look at the other team's team outlook as well, because, I think too often people just send these flat trades that they're not really considering, hey, what does this other guy's team really need? I think if you can find the need of another team and address that need while trying to get after your guy, that makes a lot more sense than just going to a calculator and say, hey, how do I make this trade even? Because again, if a guy's stacked on wide receivers and you're offering him wide receivers for his running back, it might not always work out. So always look at the other team in a dynasty and say, hey, what does this team really need right now? How could I push to fill a team need while also getting my guy? So good points all around by that. Dynasty leagues, just do them. If you're not doing them right now,
one more.
Take. Yeah, go ahead.
I have one more. This is a sales tactic, though. Never go in with the player you want. Whenever you're making a trade, never go after the player you want. Always shoot for the sky, but always be ready to fall on your third or fourth option. But that only comes from my sales background.
Mars over here selling us like cars. Yeah. Over here, if you're in a league with Amar, watch out. He has a strategy.
Hey, he does. All right. Well, good stuff on dynasties. Let's shift over. We got the big draft on Thursday. Everybody in the world is going to be on a show or hosting a show. There's going to be tons of action. I'm just going to be sitting back and watching myself, but a lot of interesting topics. I mean, every day there's some new rumors or, the guys are weighing each other out, things like that. I think we're all just ready for this draft to actually happen so we can move on from all the speculation and just go on to the next hot topic of debating. But going into the NFL draft now, so let's look at the running back position, landing spot. So last season, we saw the impact of a guy landing in the right spot, that impacted our rookie drafts. Personally, I remember seeing loads of debates. Is it Jonathan Taylor? Is it DeAndre Swift before the draft? Personally, that's what I saw a lot of. I think a lot of us can relate to that. But come draft time, a lot of leagues, the 101 was not either one of those guys for the position in general. It was CEH landing with Kansas City for a lot of leagues. Maybe not every league, but it was. The landing spot was huge. So looking ahead to this NFL draft on Thursday, which team would be a prime landing spot for a running back, and who would you like to see there? So which team stands out as, hey, they need a running back, and I would love for this guy to be there? Amar, we can start with you and then just go back to our little snake here.
All right, so I'm going to come off the top rope. I'm coming in super high. So my team that I would want to see is a running back. He's my running back in one. It's going to be Javonte Williams, and I would like to see him on the Cardinals. If he went to the Cardinals, I think he would be – I'm not going to say one-on-one because everyone's in love with Najee Harris, but I feel like if you trade back out of the one-on-one, you can get some value. I feel like Javonte Williams is going to end up being the best running back out of this class.
All right, so Amar is saying Javonte Williams to the Arizona Cardinals would be extremely appealing to him. Jeremy, what in your opinion would be extremely appealing here? And we got Justin saying the Jets.
The Jets.
Jeremy, what's your take though?
I like the Cardinals take, by the way, Amar, and I agree. I think Javonte Williams is the best player. The question is does he fall that far? I'm really convinced that 3 running backs are going in the first round, just because
I think all 3 of them are going to go.
I think that now this is the way that I'm looking at it, because I just had this conversation with someone else too. I feel like it's a very scarce position this year, and in the NFL they draft for scarcity first. You know what I mean? There's a ton of good linemen, there's a ton of good defensive players, there's a ton of wide receivers. But the NFL knows that there's only those 3 running backs. And then after that, you're getting complement guys. So I think that we might see 3. And I think I'm going to go with a little homer here. I'm going to say Travis Etienne to the Bills, just because I've seen a lot of rumors lately. And I think that the Bills still just don't like their running backs. I think Devin Singletary and Moss are all right. I mean, they're decent kind of complementary type guys, but they really need a workhorse back there to get some of the pressure off of Josh having to run. And I think Etienne fits it well. He's obviously proven that he can do well with screens. He's a decent pass catching back. And I would be ecstatic, but I like that fit. I think it'll be a nice fit. Either that or Tyler had said, the Jets there. I think that's or whoever popped up with that comment. Justin. Yeah. Sorry.
Just
Justin.
naming people in
the I don't know. I just made up a name, honestly, Justin. I'm sorry.
The Bills though, the Bills were like that juicy landing spot in free agency. There was all these rumors like, hey, what if Aaron Jones went there? And I feel like the Bills landing spot is kind of quieted down a little bit. But knowing Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure why. I know that there's a few guys, in that backfield, but nobody stands out as, hey, he is the running back one. We know in the goal line area, the running back one is Josh Allen, but everywhere else on the field, we see this fluctuation of guys up and down. So I think knowing that the Bills' offense is so strong that, yeah, if a guy like Etienne's in that offense, that's extremely appealing.
And he might take the running back one away from Josh at the goal line when they actually have a running back who can get in the end zone.
Might impact Josh Allen's upside.
I actually read about that, how Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott actually don't want like a Cam 2.0 because like Cam took all those hits on the goal line. So they want Josh Allen to stay more upright for the second contract. That's why they're looking at running back hardcore.
It would make sense. I mean, I trust me. I watch every Bills game through the heartbreak and through the knot, and sometimes I'm like, why are they running with him? But that's literally the only person who gets yardage. Like Devin Singletary makes some plays on screens, and just I don't like Zach Moss. Sorry, like Ball Blast and all of them. I just I cried when they drafted Zach Moss. Of course, I cried when they drafted Josh Allen. So that tells you everything. So I'll just be quiet now. Continue.
I'm the opposite though. Seeing Josh Allen do the fake handoffs and going into the end zone, I have too many shares of Allen, so I was like always.
Oh, it's exciting. I love it. I love them too, but I just for the long-term benefit of my team franchise,
your organization,
for a running back.
Makes sense. John, when it comes to the running back position, what's a juicy landing spot here for a guy in this draft, and who would you like to see there if that could be the case?
So it's funny. I was building out all my, this spreadsheet again with all the sort of rosters and current rosters and where people are. And the biggest hole to me, and what's good about doing this is pre-draft, is you get to see where teams have holes and where teams need players. To me, Atlanta Falcons need a running back so badly, so badly. Pre-cutting Ito Smith, cutting Todd Gurley, anything else. And then they bring in Mike Davis, and I get it. Mike Davis is good. Mike Davis had a great time in Carolina when CMC was down, but you can't tell me that Atlanta Falcons are going to go into the season with Mike Davis as their running back and no one behind him. So to me, I would love to see a do-it-all back, a 3-down back. Everyone, Najee Harris is a great one. Everyone wants to see that. I don't think they have the draft capital to get Najee Harris. So I'm going to say Chuba Hubbard. I would love to see him, a home run hitter, fast as the wind. Anything can, really, you're going to be so focused on Ridley, Julio, and Kyle Pitts at 4, so you're going to be so focused on that all of a sudden you're going to see this guy come out of the backfield and just rip off chunks the same way we saw J.K. Dobbins rip off chunks. I want to see a speed fast back in that Atlanta backfield to complement Mike Davis, because Mike Davis is not really this like threat to hit a home run, but you pair him with someone who is, it could be really interesting. It could be a great landing spot. So I think Atlanta to me is a sneaky place where day 2, they could grab someone and all of a sudden that's the guy who becomes this, why weren't we talking about this guy? And you're like, oh, well, because it's just landing spot and skill position in Atlanta to me makes the most sense. So I would love to see, I'm going Chuba in Atlanta.
I think Javonte might fall to them, honestly.
Come on. I mean, if you're going to give me that,
you're looking at.
I think he's like, fine.
I know I said they were all going to go. I know they said they were all going to go in the first round, but Atlanta's right at the cusp of that second round, and that's pretty high for Chuba. But I mean, they could take him. But if one of these guys fall, I honestly, not to plug my own work, but I have a landing spot article at the Gambling Podcast Network, and I listed Atlanta as one of them too. I think it was Atlanta, the Jets, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think, Atlanta would be great. There's so many just touches and everything from the running back position. And I agree, Chuba there, if they wait, Chuba paired with Mike Davis would be great. I love that.
And their defense still stinks. So they're going to have to score points like crazy. There's too many holes on that defense to fix the defense in one off season. So I think if Atlanta doesn't trade Julio, doesn't trade Matt Ryan, and they keep the band together for at least another season, then they're going to have to just score a ton of points every game, which you like for fantasy, obviously.
I also think Atlanta has the most vacated touches and targets.
Yeah, I think so too. I think they're pretty close.
And to think that they're done just because of the bringing in Davis. I mean, we like what Davis did this past season, but I think it'd be foolish to think that they have other holes to fill. They're fine at running back. So good point with the Falcons. I think the big talk I think today and yesterday bringing up the Steelers. They have interest in Najee Harris. Steelers were the worst rushing offense this past season, but they scored the 12th most points. So obviously that was very lopsided. They really need to address that position right there. Some guys still have faith in McFarland and maybe some Benny Snell guys out there, but I think just the Steelers in general, seeing that last season, they were an offense that did get up the field. I think the running back in that situation would have some good opportunities there. So that one's talked about a lot. Shift over to the wide receiver position. So same sort of question. Prime landing spot for a wide receiver. If you want to say who'd you like to see there, that'd be great too. I'll just throw this one out there to start, and then we'll go to Jeremy. But the Titans, between Jonnu Smith and Corey Davis, 157 vacated targets. Now, Anthony Ferguson might be a sleeper tight end. I think they have Josh Reynolds floating in that system right now, but I think the Titans need a complementary guy, if I said that right, to A.J. Brown. And just seeing, Corey Davis have some good weeks this past season and all those vacated targets, you'd like to see, I don't know, one of the two Moores go there, Elijah or Rondale. I think just, having the opportunity, that's what's big for me, opportunity for volume. And I think the Titans are a spot for that. So I'd really like to see a guy that I invested in go to the Titans. Jeremy, for, again, wide receiver position, what would be a good landing spot?
I love the Titans, by the way. Another one. But I want Rashad Bateman there. But the Lions. The Lions have to be this for me. I just think that they have no one. I mean, they got Tyrell Williams, Brashad Perryman, Khalif Raymond, Quintez Cephas. That's their. I have so much Quintez Cephas because until they signed like these three guys who may not play. But I just think at 7 they might take somebody, and if they take somebody at 7, that's just like
Gravy.
That's like 1-5,
No
1-6 in rookie drafts. I just think that there's just too much opportunity there. And I know the big knocks on Jared Goff, but I think Jared Goff's still definitely viable, and definitely he's proven he can have fantasy viable wide receivers. So for me, especially planning on them probably moving on, they're probably going to be bad. They might have a top pick, and you might see a good quarterback coming in the next couple of years. Like if they land Jalen Waddle or like a Devontae Smith at 7 or 8, I'm all in.
And the common thing said by both Jeremy and I is opportunity. And I think that that's huge for wide receivers because we've seen in the past, guys be in nice situations because of good quarterbacks. But at the same time, if the volume is not there and it's not consistent, the fantasy upside is a bit capped. So, John, wide receiver position, what's a great landing spot in your opinion?
So if I'm playing dream scenario where I don't have to worry about the draft, I would put Jalen Waddle in Green Bay so fast your head would spin. It would be electric. Like that's him. Aaron
Don't do
Jones,
this to me.
Devontae
Don't do
Adams,
this to me.
That's electric. That's an offense that I want to get a part of. So I would love to see Green Bay land somebody. Now I want them to get somebody with speed and somebody to really, like I said, be a weapon in that offense because they just need somebody other than, Marquez Valdez-Scantling for whatever he's worth and anything else other than Devontae Adams. And the other part of why I like Green Bay as a landing spot is because it helps a rookie come along when they're next to an alpha. And we can all sit here and say Devontae Adams is an alpha. So he's going to draw a lot of the strong coverage. He's going to draw a lot of the primary coverage. So then you have a rookie who's getting his feet wet in the NFL, playing with Hall of Fame Aaron Rodgers, getting weak coverage. That's kind of that's the recipe for what I want for fantasy. That's kind of why Justin Jefferson did so well in a lesser degree. He had Adam Thielen there. And so he came along great because he had somebody opposite. Sometimes we get so focused on target volume and we say, okay, we want this person to go here because he can be the number one. A rookie coming in and being the number one, being an alpha on a team is really difficult. And it's hard for a rookie to do that. So I like it a little when they can kind of ease themselves in. So to me, Green Bay is that sort of perfect scenario where they need weapons. They have a Hall of Fame quarterback and you also have an alpha on the other side of the field. So to me, Green Bay makes the most sense. And if I could put anyone in there, it would be Jalen Waddle because I absolutely love the guy for fantasy. So
I like it. I mean, I don't like it as a Bears fan. I like it as talking about fantasy here, but good points there. I mean, the amount of attention that Devonta Adams demands all over the field. I mean, he's going to swallow so much target volume, and he's also the best red zone target in the NFL. So having another weapon that is going to find some space on the field, like you're saying with Waddle, that explosiveness and speed, when other people are worried about Devonta Adams, is going to be or could be very, very good. So from a fantasy aspect, that would be a great landing spot. Hope they do it. From a Bears fan aspect, I hope they draft another quarterback or running back. But we'll see what they do here. Amar, wide receiver prime landing spot for you for this draft coming up.
I'm gonna talk about a place that I don't think anyone's talked about at all, and that's the Chargers. And the reason why I'm talking about the Chargers, Mike Williams can't stay healthy. They lost Hunter Henry. Austin Eckler is the only receiving option out of the backfield. Justin Herbert showed that he's a very good quarterback. He has the second highest scoring season out of a rookie quarterback since Cam Newton in 2011. The sky's the limit for Justin Herbert. They brought in Brandon Stanley from the Rams organization. He's going to be running the same Rams scheme as Sean McVay, or he's going to bring the same principal schemes. Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp gave us top 10 seasons almost 2 years ago. Cooper Kupp gave us a wide receiver 4 season. So if Justin Herbert can do his thing, Keenan Allen can stay healthy. I know he missed the last 4 games last year. He's going to be – I think he just turned 29 as well. The wide receiver that I'd want there is a mixture between Terrence Marshall and Rashad Bateman, because I don't think they have a jump ball. Well, they do have a jump ball with Mike Williams, but as I said, he can't really stay healthy. It's his 5th year. If they don't pick up his option, he's going to be gone next year. So the Chargers would be my position, and it would be either Terrence Marshall or Rashad Bateman.
A lot of us look at Justin Herbert, right, and love the upside he brings, love the dynasty value of Justin Herbert. But we look at a guy like Keenan Allen. Obviously, that combo is great. But there's not, a lot of us don't look at Mike Williams, like you said, because of the injury history, because of probably the up and down performances. We don't look at Mike Williams and say, hey, he's got a great quarterback. That connection's good. So I think finding a guy who can come into the system and be dangerous and be consistent with Justin Herbert, who we all like, good point there. Good point there with that. We're getting close to the hour mark, so maybe we can go pretty quick with these last 2 topics. I'll cut it down. But a lot of debate with the quarterback ordering. Let's say we all agree that Trevor Lawrence, even though we touched base on it before the podcast, let's say Trevor Lawrence goes to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah, they are
crazy
doing that.
notion.
I got a call and I said I don't even play quarterback anymore. That was in Madden 2 seasons ago. But they're really identifying they're doing their due diligence. Yeah, exactly.
They're doing their due diligence.
Exactly.
They're doing it.
So
they're checking all their options.
He should be going to the Jaguars. So what is the order? What's the order? Give me your quick, hey, Fields, Wilson, Mac Jones. Unless Trey Lance is before one of these guys, that's fine. Who's the next 3 guys in the order? I'm not going to say, hey, give me their exact landing spot. If you want to, fine. But what's the order here? John, we can start with you on this one.
If you're asking me, like my personal order and not the order I think they're going to get drafted in, I think you have it right. Fields, Wilson, Mac Jones. Like that's how I would rank it. That's kind of how I look at it from fantasy and for real life football. I don't know why this Justin Fields sort of slipping thing has happened over the past month. It was for the longest time, it was Fields, Lawrence for years. And then all of a sudden recently, it's just been Fields is like slipping. And I don't know if anyone saw the Chris Sims one where he goes 30 seconds to the Bucks. Yeah, like this is crazy.
Even after good pro days,
Oh my God. So this is crazy to me. So I would have it as you have it. Fields, Wilson, Mac Jones. But I think it will probably go Wilson, Fields, and then Mac. If anyone's going to slide, Mac Jones is going to slide. So that's kind of how I would think it's going to play out in the draft. I think it's almost a lock that Wilson, it shouldn't be, but the Jets are going to do Jets things, and the Jets are going to take Wilson at 2, which they should take Fields. I don't know why they don't want a leader. I don't know what they don't want, what they don't like about Justin Fields. I don't know what it is. So
I think they might surprise us and take him.
If they do,
maybe they don't. But
I hope they do. I hope they do. As a
You could
Patriots
put
fan, actually, I hope they
$5 on it.
don't. As a Patriots fan, I hope they don't. But I hope
I was
they do.
gonna say, you
Because
got
then
the
it'll make
McGinnis
me
right
feel
behind
good.
you.
Jets
Well,
gonna jet.
yeah.
Yeah, Robbie, you get
Jets
it.
gonna
Jets are
jet.
gonna jet. It's just
But
what they do.
maybe it's all smoke and mirrors. I mean, maybe they know
Maybe.
exactly what they should do, and they're going to do it. But I mean,
I can't wait.
Enough said.
That would send everything for a loop if he goes too. That would be
Everything.
awesome. Everything.
I mean,
I'd love it.
$5 wins you a lot of money right now. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy for the odds. Amar, what's your order after Lawrence? Let's say the next three.
So I went Jaguars Lawrence. I went Jets Wilson. I went 49ers Mac Jones. I went Carolina Panthers Justin Fields. And I think Trey Lance goes to the Patriots at 15. Is what I put.
All right, so he's got it all mapped out.
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
but
you're my guy. You're my guy right now. You just gave the Pats. They didn't even have to move up. They just get them at 15. All right.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
the thing about it is Lance wasn't getting much love in the beginning of the process, and all of a sudden he's getting a lot of love at the late of the process. And I've noticed that in like previous years when we do mock drafts, the quarterback that gets loved the latest is the one that always ends up falling. Like because I feel like that's always a smoke screen to like let's pump up a guy that no one's talking about, so other teams think we're going to take him. But I swear to God, if the Panthers get Justin Fields, I don't even know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be so excited. All the DJ Moore.
All right, so he's got the teams listed out and everything there. Yeah, I think Trey Lance. I mean, he's getting some hype. It might have came from Jeremy's boy on that commercial. Josh Allen had like a commercial. I forgot what he was saying. Like they don't believe in you. Like I don't know. Like
don't listen to haters. I think was the moral of that story.
Basically, the moral of the story is you can do it.
We'll sum it up. Yeah.
Yeah, you always got like some. I think last year like Dak Prescott was that guy. There's always like the guy who was once counted out. Now in the next rookie draft, he's like, hey, it was once me, that sort of thing. But Jeremy, I know you look at this stuff a ton. What's your order? What's the next three guys off the board here? Or, if you got the landing spots, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, from what I've seen, I think it's definitely got to be Wilson at 2. And then 3 is really a toss up. I mean, it's going to be a quarterback. I want it to be Justin Fields, but I really think if it's going to be anybody, it's going to be Mac Jones. It's not going to be Trey Lance. And then I think somebody comes up to 4. I think that Atlanta moves their pick and you see possibly Trey Lance go there. I think Mac Jones I think that Mac Jones is going to slide if anybody slides because where was I going with that? I don't know. The
shirtless picture.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's been passed around.
No, it's not that.
No favors. Eat a salad or something.
Yeah,
right?
I think the only team that actually has interest is San Francisco. And why? I don't know. After that, I feel like he's the guy that's going to end up sorry for your Patriots fans, but I feel like he would be the team that he's going to fall to just because they're not going to move. I don't really see them trading up, and I think they're just going to wait for who comes to them, and I think it could be Mac Jones. Mm-hmm. I don't get the Justin Fields hate, and I could see the Jets taking Justin Fields at 2. I think and that could be where the rumors started with the 49ers looking at Lance and Mac Jones, because maybe they already know possibly that the Jets are taking Justin Fields. You know what I mean? And that's where everybody's like, why aren't they taking him? Because the Jets are saying they're taking Wilson, but we all know until it's all smoke screens. It's all, you know what I mean? Kyle Shanahan's out there saying there's 5 guys he's taking, 5 quarters that he's going to take at 3.
Kyle Shanahan thinks everyone's going to be dead on Sunday. So
exactly.
He's got a very unique approach to everything about how he wants to divert those questions. Let's get this last one in here. We got a few minutes here. I've talked about this on a previous pod with Scott, Nimble Numbers, and Bo. Had both those guys on. I asked about, who's a guy that might get drafted earlier than most people think. Could be any position. The guy I threw out was Kadarius Toney. I'm not saying I'm a massive fan. I'm not saying I'm not. I'm just saying I think that the NFL, some NFL organization might look at Toney and say, hey, this guy is a different version of like a Deebo Samuel. We can use him in so many different ways and, line him up, in different areas and make this guy a weapon. So we're going to go grab him a little bit earlier than he's projected to go. So that was like my thinking behind it. Hey, an NFL organization might reach out and take this guy earlier than we all think. We'll go to Amar on this one. Who's the guy that you think might go a little bit earlier than we actually are projecting?
Well, I don't think Jalen Waddle's going to fall to the Packers, but I think he's going to go at number 6 of the Dolphins. And I think he's going to be the number 2 wide receiver off the board. He's going to go Jamar Chase.
Interesting.
And then Jalen Waddle at 6. And the reason why I say Jalen Waddle is because the Dolphins signed Will Fuller, and Will Fuller to be an outside guy with Devontae Parker, but they don't have any inside guy that can attack the seam, and he's a speedster. So I think that would be huge for Tua in his prospects for this year.
Yeah, that was part of the show sheet. Obviously, you ran out of time, but looking at maybe not the number 1 guy, but we saw last year, Henry Ruggs surprised us all being the first guy off the board. Maybe we're not going to say Waddle's going to be the first guy, but that number 2, I think, is more up for grabs than some people want to admit to. Jeremy, who's the guy that stands out to you? This guy might go a bit earlier than we are all projecting.
Yeah, I'm going to say, I'm going to say it's a bigger name, but I'm going to say Najee Harris. I think a lot of people think he's going to fall like more to that later round. Everybody's always like, oh, the late 20s. That's kind of where guys start going. I think one of these teams trade up. I think a running back goes in the teens, and I think it's going to be Najee Harris, but it could be any of them. But I'm going to go with him. I think he goes in like the teen range there, like late 15 to 20 range. I think that's where he goes.
And I think, like we've said earlier in this podcast, I'm sure the NFL organizations are thinking similar to some of us with, hey, there's a big 3 and then a bunch of guys that might be complementary backs. I can't let this guy fall if I want him. So, yeah, I like that point there. John, who's the guy you think might go earlier than we're all expecting to?
It would be a shame if I went on a podcast and didn't mention Nico Collins. Like, it would just be a crying shame. So I'm going to sit here and say Nico Collins is going to go earlier than people expect. Right now, I mean, what's up?
Day 2?
Yeah, he's probably day 2. He's not a first round guy by any stretch of the imagination. I think most of us know who's kind of going to be in the first round. So that's why, to me, he's going to be a surprise because he might be early day 2. Look, the wide receivers in this class are not that big. He's 6'4" and fast as anything. So that's kind of what we talked about, how there's not many running backs. Well, there's also not many big wide receivers in this class either. So I think Nico Collins could get pushed up boards because if you want that big X possession guy, that's kind of your target. So to me, Nico Collins, early day 2, land somewhere sexy, and all of a sudden he's another name like Chuba who we look at and go, wow, where did he come from? But like, well, it kind of makes sense. He profiles more as an X, and that's kind of a team. I could see a team falling in love with him and saying, we don't want to miss out on this guy. So a little bit of Michigan fandom, a little bit of, take lock on Nico Collins, but I'm going to say Nico Collins is going to be go earlier than expected and shock people for fantasy.
Could be this year's Michael Pittman.
Sure.
Yeah.
Came out of nowhere last year.
Mm-hmm.
I like the point about him being of a different build than some of these other guys, because I feel like, doing some research and reading up on, I like to grab a bunch of different people's perspectives on the qualities of some of these guys. And I feel like so many of these guys, obviously very different, but a lot of them have a similar kind of build and right up to them. And then you got guys like Nico Collins, who, he is a lot different than some of the smaller, more gadget looking guys that line up different positions, things like that. So good point there. We're going to wrap things up. We are at the hour mark here. Again, great podcast. We talked some dynasty advice, some dynasty topics. Then we shifted into the NFL draft that we've all been waiting for with some good topics there. Great discussion from these 3 guys. I want to make sure that they close out the podcast, letting us know where we can find them. So we'll go reverse order. We'll go John, Jeremy, and then Amar here. Let us know again where we can find you, and then anything else you want to plug to close the podcast out.
Sure. You can follow me at FTLS_JBats on Twitter. You can find the podcast For the Love of Sundays, FTLS podcast. And really the only thing I'm going to plug is this spreadsheet that we're going to send out. Hopefully, we're now, but hopefully in a couple months before it gets into redraft season, you will have this huge database of sort of grades, rankings, as well as little 1-paragraph write-ups of every player in the league from me and Brian. So we're going to make that free. We're going to make that public. It's just a spreadsheet that we do every year to help us prepare for fantasy pros. So this is just going to be, you guys checking out that data and that spreadsheet. So keep an eye out for that, and keep an eye out for the podcast. We put it out weekly. It's kind of a little slower now. Brian's busy doing NHL stuff, thinks he's so cool. But the podcast will go back to once or twice a week at some point soon. So keep an eye out for that.
Awesome stuff. Jeremy, again, where can we find you? Anything else you want to plug to close the pod?
You guys can find me on Twitter at PopesFFH. Like I said before, DMs are open for any questions, rookie draft, stuff like that. Check out I got a lot of rookie content. I'm actually going to drop a thread of pretty much everything I've done leading up to this here, hopefully tomorrow. But any rookie content, I got a ton of it up at Sports Gambling Podcast Network at Yards Per. And other than that, if you like this podcast, you can come and watch mine here in about 30 minutes. We're going to talk about.
Stay tuned.
We're going to talk about some rookies and do a rookie mock draft. So.
All right. So, hey, like you said, stay tuned. Got another podcast. You can see this guy again in Amar.
1 hour wasn't enough, They need to.
Hey, I was just keeping your podcast in mind. Also keeping what's going on downstairs in mind, so I don't get in trouble myself. Right. So, Amar, second podcast ever, knock that one out. Tell everybody where we can find you, and then anything else you got going on.
So you can find me on Twitter at Amar Gaber, AMRGAABR. And you can also find me on RotoViz, rotoviz.com. And you should find me on the Twitter street. On the Twitter streets, find me out there.
All right, on the Twitter streets. All right, well, NFL Draft. Good luck with your podcast. Anybody doing that? Have fun with that. Next week on this podcast, I have Cooter Doodle and Fantasy Couch on the same podcast on Tuesday, and then we kick off our the Script to Ships show with Steffi Smalls on Thursday. So have that coming up. Other than that, probably some other pieces of content sprinkled in, baseball, basketball, whatever the case is. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you three for hopping on the podcast. This one was a lot of fun. And everybody have a good night.
You too.